Aloha, children of the night, and welcome to the Tiki Goth Club. We are back where we started from, the very first episode.
Yeah, our first episode was filmed right here at this corner.
Yep, right here at this corner at the Waters House of Tiki, the Hula Hideaway. And Jamie, it's always great to have you on the show because you are the inspiration for this whole entire thing.
Always great to be here.
Yeah, so thanks for coming over and coming on the show again. I've been doing a lot of thinking about subcultures. And I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat as me where, like, my life has been like a series of getting in and out of different subcultures. Or maybe not even getting out of them, but just having them.
And some are, like, more important at certain times. Like, there's just a sort of ebb and flow, I think, on, excitement about them. Yeah, even if they never really go away.
Well, for me, that's punk rock. Mm-hmm. I got into punk rock, and I'm still into punk rock. Like, I just never got out of it. And those ethos... those ethos are still in me. Mm-hmm. I got into that. Shit, I mean, I guess being into metal would have been a subculture. But, like, then I got into, like Vespas. I was into cycling culture, like, up in Seattle. Like, like fixed-gear bikes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, like that whole bike messenger thing. Tiki is a subculture. And then you have goth. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about goth is that goth is its own subculture.
Yes.
But it also plays well with other subcultures.
It does. And it plays well with every subculture you just named. Well, I don't know about fixed-speed bikes. I'm sure that there's, a goth fixed-speed bike club somewhere.
If there's any goth fixies out there,
give us a shout-out.
Give us a shout-out. But why is that, though? Why does goth play well with other subcultures?
Well, and I think it's interesting, like, the list that you just did kind of mirrored, like, how I got into goth. And I actually just recounted this recently, where in, middle school I was really into metal. And this was, like, mid-'80s hair metal. Like, Poison was my favorite band, you know. And then I think it was, like, somewhere between 8th and 9th grade, so between middle and high school.
Yeah.
From one of my skater friends, I was introduced to punk.
Yep.
And that, like, changed everything. I was just, like, immediately was like, well, I'm dressing differently. I'm presenting myself differently. Like, punk was, like, an immediate shift. And I don't know exactly why, but from the metal to the punk was just, like, that felt right. And I immediately went to it. And then goth sort of was this natural addition that sort of grew out of my interest in punk. Yep. But the way that, in those days, so we're talking early 90s at this point, the way that I did, goth in that time period was really, connected to the punk scene. So I still had that super, like, DIY kind of ethos with how I did goth.
Yeah.
So some of these things, like, have this natural connection.
Why do you think goth plays well with Tiki?
I think goth plays well with Tiki because of the, it's all about the imagery, I think, between the two. Because in Tiki, even going back to, when we say Tiki, we're talking about this sort of, like, Polynesian pop, like, modern kind of take on it. But if you go back even to, like, the actual cultures that this, subculture kind of, like, borrowed elements from, and you see things like, like, I don't know, skulls and actual headhunters and these, like, sort of, like, dark, like, horror movie-esque, but it's real for them, kind of images. And so I think that's, why there's such a good connection there is, like, all about the look.
There's a lot of people that they're Tiki purists. Mm-hmm. And I can respect that, though. And I love classic Polynesian pop. I do. I really do. But Tiki has been around since the 40s and the 50s. There has to be some kind of evolution.
Absolutely.
There's going to be something more that needs to be added to it.
And that's true of, like, anything. I mean, if you think of, like, what did rock and roll mean in the 50s and what does the word rock and roll mean now?
Well, rock and roll's dead, but that's a
whole thing.
That's a whole other conversation.
But, okay, we'll say, like, the Velvet Underground. Okay, we're going back, like, decades here still. Yeah. But if you compare, say somebody like the Velvet Underground to, Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Like, they're both rock and roll.
From I Ain't Nothing
right?
But a Hound Dog to heroin.
Yeah. and that's just to use, like, really well-known, you know, like, mainstream,
and the quote, your old favorite band, Poison, like, I want action tonight.
Yeah.
Satisfaction,
all
all right.
all fall under the umbrella rock and roll. And so just talking about evolution, you know, so early days of rock and roll, which really came from, you know, that's a, you know, whole different evolution there. But, you know, you take that forward, things change.
Imagine Elvis.
If you were a rock and roll purist and you're like, no, everything must sound like Elvis at all times, and they must wear suits.
Imagine if Elvis, like, hey, I got my new song. Oh, what's that, Elvis? It's called Heroin. Heroin is my life and my wife.
No, but I mean, okay, so let's look at Elvis. That was a rock and roll evolution too. Look at, you know, like Don't Step on My Blue Suede Shoes, and then you go into like when he was doing the, you know, Vegas jumpsuit days.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that is also an evolution. So nothing can exist in that, you know, vacuum, and everything is like, it looks like this and it has to stay like that, and that's the only way it is. So I think it's way more interesting for things to evolve and for things to be added in, and like whatever floats your boat, you know?
Well, again, it's like, just like we said. I mean, like, well, I'll throw the question at you. I mean, it's like, what different subcultures have you been into over the course of your life?
So I definitely, like, started, well, like I said, in, you know, kind of middle school, and I was really into, like, hair metal.
Yeah.
Which was really only a couple of years that I was really into that. Still nostalgically love it, but it's, you know, that didn't really stay with me. I didn't really grow with it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I was introduced to punk, and that did stay with me. I still consider myself to kind of be a punk rocker, even though I'm not like, you know, throwing myself into pits or anything anymore, but I still, like, the ethos of punk is still very much in me. That was something that stayed.
Yeah, me too. Fuck the system.
The goth thing stuck with me a lot too, more so in like a visual way, for sure. I mean, I'm not like drinking a chalice of blood or anything, you know, whatever, you know, like people think goth people do.
No.
Didn't get in, you know, not into that.
Getting back to the thing, like, I was just thinking about, like, Trader Vic's has a skull mug. Mm-hmm. That they made, that
goes way back.
That's an old mug. And, you got to think, like, they made that first mug, which is a skull. There you go. There's your gateway from goth into tiki. You know,
that's what I'm saying. It goes back to the beginning.
Because I'm sure there has been many, many other skull mugs that have been made. And I think a lot of people, well, the reason why you started your goth Tiki Goth Facebook group is because
it's called Goth Tiki.
You're a lot of people realizing that. Oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it is. It's called Goth Tiki.
Goth Tiki is that you're finding out that there's a lot of people that not only are they into goth, but they're also into Tiki.
And I've noticed since starting that group too, and seeing what people post, because like I personally don't post a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because really, I want it to be like this community of sharing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like the queen of Goth Tiki.
But you are.
It wasn't why I started it.
You are, though. I mean, if you're not, who is? You know.
Yeah. But I really love people sharing like their own take on it, and I've also noticed there's a ton of crossover as far as like with this, you know, group, this subculture of people who are into Goth Tiki. The kind of like Venn diagram crossovers that I see a lot are, of course, horror movies.
Yep.
Pirates.
Yep.
Sci-fi. I think those are kind of the...
They're goth pirates.
Yes. No, but I think those are the three...
Ahoy, children of the night!
I think those are the three main, like, other interests, because we're all multifaceted people. We all have multiple interests. Like, you're talking about, like, these multiple subcultures that you're a part of to a greater or lesser degree. Same thing here. I started my list and didn't finish it.
Yeah.
I'm not so much into pirates or whatever, but horror movies and sci-fi,
my interest,
I'm into those things.
My interest in pirates goes as far as Long John Silver's, and then it's is there a combination of like pirates and goth?
I think yes, and I'm only not from like personal knowledge do I know this, but just in observing others. Because there seems to be like in the dress up for an event kind of world.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of crossover with like goth people that are also into like Ren fairs.
That's what I was going to say.
And then
Renaissance
goth people
fair.
into, and then in both of those things, there's also people who are into like the pirate events.
Gotcha.
Because they're all like, let's dress in these old timey,
Yep,
outfits
I can see that.
and go hang out.
People out there, I'm curious to see what you have to think about this. Why does goth play well with other subcultures? We have our reasons and our beliefs, and I'd like to see what you have to think.
I'd be very interested in that too.
Yeah, and Jamie, if people want to join the Facebook group, what do they do?
Yeah, so on Facebook, just look up Goth Tiki.
Yep.
And it is a private group. I have it set at private. And it does require you to answer questions. And I do require those questions to be answered.
Yeah,
to
questions
get into
like what's
group.
your favorite Cure album, and you can't say you can't say anything after Disintegration. And
I mean, if that was a question, that would be the right answer.
I think what it comes down to, Jamie, I just think everyone just wants to wear black, and they just add it to whatever subculture.
whatever else they're into. One of my favorite jokes ever is a pirate joke.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so a pirate walks into a tiki bar.
Yeah.
And he has a steering wheel hanging off of the front of his pants.
Okay.
And the bartender says, excuse me, sir, you have a steering wheel hanging off the front of your pants. And the pirate says, arg, and it's driving me nuts.
So you may be asking yourself, how can I join the Tiki Goth Club? Well, there is no membership. There are no fees. Well, things have changed. For $15, you can become a member of the Tiki Goth Club. What does $15 get you? It gets you your own membership card with your own number. You also get a couple stickers and a pin. I also have shirts for sale. These are $20, $5 shipping and handling. And I also have hoodies for sale that go for $40, $10 shipping and handling. If you're interested in any of this, go to my website, tikiwithray.com, and there's a tab that says Tiki Goth Club. Just click on that, and all the information you need is there.